Deputy Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Ashok Abesinghe says the cabinet paper stating the 12.5% increase in bus fares will be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers for approval on the 22nd of this month. Is this price hike reasonable as per the national policy on the revision of bus fares?
According to the revision of bus fares under the national policy, fares are revised on the 1st of July every year. But as the government decided to increase fuel prices, bus associations called for an increase in fares before the annual revision takes place. Following preliminary talks, Cabinet approved an increase of 6.56%. However, as the minimum fare was not amended and the amendments as proposed by certain bus associations were not followed, bus associations threatened to launch a strike action. While one group called for a 10% increase, another called for a 20% price hike.
There are certain criteria in the national policy on the revision of bus fares. According to the price increased in fuel, it calculates to 4.4%. Our cost in services have increased. Cost for air conditioners and other repairs have increased. But the monthly and daily expenses as well as expenses for log sheets haven't increased. The cost for the annual revenue license has also not increased. There is no reason to lie about it. The fact that the rupee has depreciated is also a cost. When you look at the financing, it calculates to about 9%. There are provisions in the national policy on the revision of bus fares that an additional 1 or 2% can be increased on the advice of the minister, which is why we asked for a 10% increase. There is a 4.5% cost for diesel and a 5% cost for spare parts. Moreover, the cost for tire tube tapes have increased by 200%. We ran for 4 kilometers with a litre of diesel, but with a litre of diesel being increased to 114 rupees, we can run 2 kilometers. This has severely impacted the industry in the Colombo city. That fare was completely wrong. The 12% has not been calculated properly, adding to the cost which affects us. They have only calculated the diesel price. It would be much higher if it is calculated properly. It seems as if it would increase much more. No, there is no equation because we even understand the factors for this revision. It was long overdue. It would take much longer if we go to formulate more policies. They wanted this to be implemented right away yesterday, so the equation was spoken about. Rather than giving them the 20% they asked for, we decided to give them 12.5%. We can talk later about how it affects the formula. Show us that the strike can be stopped with just 10% and we can talk about it.
The functions of the National Transport Commission are to advise the government on the national policy relating to passenger transport services by omnibuses. Speaking to Newsfirst, its chairman said the decision to increase bus fares by 12.5% was taken without consulting the National Transport Commission. Meanwhile, issuing a release, the National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection says the price hike is unreasonable as per the national policy on the revision of bus fares. It adds if the revised bus fare is not withdrawn, the National Movement for Consumer Rights Protection is prepared to go to court on behalf of the people. By refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a Montgomery, Alabama city bus in 1955, black seamstress Rosa Parks helped initiate the civil rights movement in the United States. Back then in Montgomery, Alabama, when a bus became full, the seats near the front were given to white passengers. Montgomery bus driver ordered Parks and 3 other African Americans seated nearby to move to the back of the bus. 3 riders complied. Parks did not. In 1955, the Women's Political Council issued a leaflet calling for a boycott of Montgomery buses. Don't ride the bus to work, to town, to school or any place, Monday, December 5th. The Montgomery bus boycott triggered a firestorm in the South. People walked to work or rode their bikes and carpools were established to help the elderly. The bus company suffered thousands of dollars in lost revenue. Finally, on the 23rd of November 1956, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the MIA. Segregated busing was declared unconstitutional. City officials reluctantly agreed to comply with the court ruling.